Hello, everyone. Welcome to Housing is a Human Right, Orange County. It ordinarily would be a really nice thing that we could meet, but on such a solemn occasion as to recognize those who have passed while living on the streets of Orange County. I just wish we were meeting for better reasons. In 1948, the United Nations General Assembly included something that was very important, and the United States failed to adapt it. They recognized that everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and or herself and of their family. That included food, clothing, housing, medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, and other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond their control. Yet, here we are in 2021, and none of that, almost none of that, has been provided for those of us and for the people who have suffered through no fault of their own and become unhoused in the county. So in just a moment, we're going to take turns reading those who have passed. But I want to give a brief history of Housing as a Human Right, Orange County. It was started in 2017 here in Orange County once the riverbed was cleared, and we were very active in participating and helping those who were displaced from the riverbed and sent all throughout the county. A small group of volunteers that we continue to try and help those who are unhoused, who are suffering from abject poverty, who are still unclothed, still go hungry, still unhoused, in any way we can. So I'd like to now pass this on. But before I do, I have one quick ask, and that's, please, if you're interested in helping Housing as a Human Right, Orange County, or interested in helping the population that we're gathered here to serve, please make sure you contact us at Housing as a Human Right, Orange County. Eve?
Thank you so much, Dave. So every year on December 21st, Homeless Persons Memorial Day, Housing as a Human Right, Orange County says the names of people who have passed away, unhoused people who have passed away over the last year in Orange County. I wanted to share a few of the reasons why we observe Homeless Persons Memorial Day by saying the names. First, a name is an important part of our identity. Names are what are used to refer to each of us as individuals, and they carry deep personal, cultural, and historic meanings. As such, a name is deeply humanizing. It invokes the personhood of the individual. For us, taking the time to read the names helps us honor each person who passed over the last year as a unique and irreplaceable human being. Saying all of the names makes us aware of the diversity of those who have passed away. It helps us grasp and reflect on the enormity of what has been lost. Finally, it moves us to action because we shouldn't have to say these names. This is an avoidable tragedy. For Housing as a Human Right, Orange County, saying the names is a time for us to reaffirm our commitment to advocacy in Orange County for permanent, affordable housing as a solution to houselessness. Housing is healthcare. Housing saves lives. Housing will lower the death count. Housing is safety. It is helping people to thrive, to blossom, and just to live. I want to acknowledge before passing it on that saying the names can be difficult. It brings up feelings of grief, anger, and profound loss. Some of us have experienced these losses on a very personal level, and the feelings run really deep. This is not an easy action or observance. So everyone, please take care of yourselves. Find a loved one to share with. And if you can, join our coalitions as we fight for housing justice. And just a note, apologies in advance if we mispronounce anyone's names. I'm going to pass it on to Tim Houchin now.
My name is Tim Houchin. I am formerly homeless and the longest night event organizer here in Orange County since 2015. During the few short years since our first longest night, I have witnessed the increasing number of unsheltered homeless persons dying on our streets. The list just gets longer and longer each year. I can't describe the painful feeling I get when I come across the name of a person that I shared time with while on the streets. Friends, acquaintances, many were like family to me. I was unaware that they had passed away, but there they are on my list. More recently, the names of clients, people who I worked with, trying to help them, they are sometimes on that list too. But the worst thing about all of this is nothing is being done to reduce the number of people that are dying. Not one department in any city or at the county, no nonprofit or charity, no homeless service provider, no community or faith-based organization. No one is focused solely on saving the lives of our homeless brothers and sisters, and the number of deaths climb higher and higher year after year. 386 people lost their lives without permanent, healthy, safe, and secure places to call home in 2021. How many more will die before someone does something about it?
Thank you so much, Tim. Now we're going to proceed to actually saying the names.
Jeffrey Villarreal, George Glendenning, Juan Sanchez, Jason Motis, Charles Molfis, Robert Johnson Jr., Daniel Smith, Adam Giovelli, Rooswell Castellanos, Felicia Hernandez, Daniel Reddy, Karen Mitchell, Michael Munsterman, Jama Fawcett, Robin Stewart, Janie DeVries, Alexandria Fody, Rulin Chung, Alan Downey, Ramon Lopez Jr., J. Refugio Muniz, Robert Geddes, Veronica Blake, Michael Matthews, Dong Yi, Miguel Lopez, and Samantha Herzik. And these were names from December, and these last three names were in January 2021.
The following names passed away in the month of January 2021. Michael Lamas, Deontay Valdez, Lauren Losito, Salvador Avila Bravo, Jose Pano Medina, Albert Archibique Jr., Edith Guzman, Dean Talaski, Leon Williams, Kathleen Hurley, Hermenegildo Ortega, Jeffrey Jenkins Smith, Algerine Clark, Rick Garcia, Max Gamboa, David Banks, Hector Aguirre, Patrick McKenna, Eva Amezcua, Martin Zapata Lara, Donald Pierce, Nicholas Jarvis, Daniel Hudson, Antonio Rodriguez, Harold Rose, James Salisbury, Lonnie Morgan, and Jacob Conroy.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge one of my shelter mates who had passed away. His name is Joshua Ogle. He was a wonderful father, a great shelter mate, and left behind 4 children and a family and parents. I will go on. Joshua, Juan Torres Chavez, Andy Tran, Carlos Cortez, Stephen Riley, Dylan Noel, Manu Alfaro Vasquez, Stephen Smith, Luis Polanco Argueta, Michael Casas, Christian Bello, those that had passed in February, Apollinaire Mendez, David Cisneros, Manuel Valdez Salmoron, Beneo Barbara, Christian Wade Link IV, Jose Vasquez, William Mangazol, Terry Evans, Joseph Griffin, Morgan Pleasant, Mark Arrington, Sherwin Harris, Jeff Walker, Vivaro Morales. I thank you for letting me have the time to acknowledge people that have experienced so much grief and trauma in their lives. We will miss you all.
The following are the names of people who died in February and March of 2021. David Hussey, Andres Chavez, Ronald Davis, Amilcar Quiñones, James Puentes, Alfredo Castillo, Andrew Perez, Elizabeth Ortiz, Nelson Guay, Karina Espinosa, Raymond Hardiman, Mark Sain, Anthony Regalado, Jeffrey Woodruff, Ronnie Quintanar, Farhan Samad,
Matthew Danella, Timothy Durham, Miguel Rodriguez, Thomas Cross, Sal Fernandez, Cherie Withrow Jackson, Marcus Zavala, Lasagna Gaston, Lawrence Gonzalez, Giovanni Bautista, Eric Kiernan, Lai Vin.
So today we are remembering people who passed away by saying their names. But it's important for everyone to know that this does not include everyone who passed away who was experiencing homelessness. Anyone who was in the hospital and maybe had an address and just weren't identified as homeless. If the family claimed them from the coroner's office, even if they were in jail, or even if they just had an address and never told anybody that they were homeless, they're not included in this list. So there are countless, many more people that passed away this year with no home. And I'm going to tell you about one of them. He would go by Russ. I met Russ when he was 75 years old. It was just 6 months ago. So I didn't know him really well, but I knew what a kind and generous and gentle man he was. He was a veteran of the Navy. He had served in the reserves as well as active duty back in the 60s. He was living in a motel when I met him. He had actually experienced a medical crisis a couple years ago and had actually been living in the motel for a couple years, paying for it himself with his Navy pension. He was entitled to housing assistance through the VA, so that's something we were working on. he had a lot of medical problems and was having surgery after surgery, but he was so strong. I mean, he was a slight guy, but he was so strong, and he'd come back from those surgeries, you know, and just be better very quickly. And he was really looking forward to getting through some of those medical things he had going on so that he could get back to living his life. And then he had hope of housing too. He had just been connected with the VOA, and when he unexpectedly suddenly passed away. So that's Russ. And I'll always remember his kindness and his sweet spirit.
Carlos Cortez, David Pilkington. Continuing with people who died without shelter in the month of March 2021. Andrew Hernandez, Juan Rodriguez, Megan Castile, Adam Madigan, Stephen Hay, Thomas Mansfield, Brandon Smith, Raymond Alvidrez Jr., Carrie Cole, Dominic White, Angela Nevels Fraser, Sammy Alcaraz, William Shebrel, Preston Dodge, John Detweiler, James Johnson. Continuing with people who died in the month of April. Timothy Strode, Martin Smith, Ricky Wilden, James Gould, James Woodward, Daniel Warner, Brenda Stewart, Michael Caserta, Reina Cristobal, Joseph Leonard, Gerardo Cervantes.
Continuing with the people who died still in April. Melissa Duane, Ted Johnson, Armand Fanian, Benjamin Dang, Rodrigo Garibay, John Pullman, Ron Blansett, Laura Esper, Victor Richmond, Humberto Guillen, Jem Harrison, Alberto Herrera, Michael Kidder, Jacqueline Breen, James Bailey, Ed Irwin Lausenhammer, Xavier Palm, Juan Montejano, Leopoldo Flores. Now continuing with those who died in May. Brian Kelly, Joseph Blaine Jr., Francis Ross, Irma Coronado, Timothy Ingalls, Janie Acosta, Jeanette Schwartz, Brandon Archibald, Daniel Campbell.
Deborah, would you like to share your remembrance now?
I spent probably about 2.5 to 3 years with her in 2 different shelters. She was a domestic violence survivor, a very, very strong woman who taught me a great deal. She passed away in November before her birthday, which was December 6th. So not only is she missing her birthday this year and Christmas and the holidays, but she's left behind by her daughter and her beautiful dog Poncho, who slept next to me. Got to know each other very well. I can just say, that she's a very, very strong woman, and I just can't believe she's gone. So it's been a big shock to all of us, to the community, to all of our friends, and I will miss her every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, for sharing. I'm going to continue on with those who passed away in the month of May 2021. Noel Cordova, Loriano Estrada, Javier Duarte, Javier Banderos Cervantes, Cheryl Miller, Shelley Lehman, Sabas Seraphin, Leaf Imije, David Kilkey, Ivan Mendoza, Michael Lindstrom, John Yu, Damon Lucero, Richard Matthews. The following are those who passed away on the month of June 2021. Sean Dune, Byron Burton, Alfredo Garcia Encarnacion, Richard Cook, James Kinney, Timothy Rahan, Eddie Lopez, Steve Lojas, Pablo Barrios, Kevin Carico, Maria Martinez, Gerardo Avila, Adam Losberry, and Mark Lane.
Continuing with those who passed away in June of 2021. Richard Villarreal, David Tafoya, Jose Orozco Jr., Devin Wyatt, John Frisina, Thomas Carrillo, Vincent Coronel, Raul Ramos, Gary Rush, David Hamilton, Moses Avalos, John Domingue, Kelly Diambra, Bjarni Bradwell Jr., Adalberto Vasquez, David Sanchez. Continuing with those who passed away in July of 2021. Christopher Smith, Richard Estrada Aureliano, Marcelo Farias Valencia, Joshua Huey, Stephen Reinberg, Timothy Clark, Alfredo Aguinaldo, Tara Boger, Jose Rivera, Charles Army Jr., Daniel Escobar, Gregory Tilden.
Continuing with the people who died without fixed vote in the month of July of 2021. Derek Keane, James Stallcup, Alicia Fuentes, Jeffrey Gleason, Leticia Mae, Troy Lozano, Douglas Tyler, Joseph Parsakis, Andrew Keisler, David Chavez Sr., Enrique Lovato, Patricia Smith, Dennis McCulloch, Jaime Garduno Rodriguez, Ricardo Cordova Barragan, Roberto Espinosa, Hunter Evans, Steve Strong, Moises Zepeda, Jamie Howard, Jose Castañón, Jorge Rodriguez, Richard Milan, Alexis White, Brian Bowles, Aaron Sponseler, Bradley Gaston, Anthony Ames.
Following are the names of folks that have passed in August of 2021. Evelyn Glenn, John Pirovich, Lawrence Botich, Jose Molina Escobar, Carol Murphy, Lisa Schaefer, Steve Myers, Michael Kelly, Juan Flores, Angel Garcia, Joanne Hernandez, Donald Cooley, Bobby England, Gilbert Ochoa, Kristen Meadows, Christina Chu, Harrison Nelson, Stephen Oatman, Lorenzo Beltran, Robert Patterson, Matthew James, Sergio Arroyo, Anthony Brummett, Eduardo Urista, Madison Fowler, Shar Callaway Donnell, Zachary Coy, Kristen Koska.
Earl Host, Juvencio Rodriguez Ruiz, Robert Murphy, Sterling Anderson Chrissy, Joseph Olvera, William Peltier, Patricia Gordon, Anna Jimenez, Ozzy Twala, Robert Crum, Anna Marie Sanchez, Matthew Jackson, Travis Makel, Nathaniel Hutchinson, Gary Caseman, Donald Barnes, Sophia Amazquita, Joseph Smaltz, Carlos Gualip, Charlie Hun, Timothy Gonzalez, Pedro Velasquez Tapia, Mark Oyama, Sterling Werner, David Powell, Ronald Dodge, Philip Camacho, Gilbert Carrasco,
and I'll continue with the names of those who have passed in the month of September. Richard Bell, Crispin Worsham, Danilo Mendez, Scott Derrico, Robert Gamel, Timothy Phillips, Andrew Velasquez, Patchery Sripan, Lois Mabry, Ernesto Romero. And I continue now with those who passed during the month of October. Timothy Yorga, Roberto Torres, Santos Diaz Guevara, Marcia Findley, Sergio Angel Martinez, Wayne Johnson, Ricardo Estrada, Carlos Aaron Martinez, Thomas Cannon, Robert Peterson Jr., Martin Ferguson, Kathy Spaeth, Edward Yorba, Michael Schenkelberg, Eric Tinnison, Ruben Gonzalez, Nicholas Villani, Ricardo Espinosa, Imad Catalo, Melissa Mulat, Ronnie Martin, Mark Rodriguez, Dale Bodnar, Infant Male Hernandez, Tabitha Bell, Johnny Saldane, Jose Medrano, Jose Zaragoza, Erica Barnes, Joseph Gulick.
As others have said, the names being read are all too familiar. Even with COVID and limited outreach, there are more than I care to even fathom have gone. In the month of November included the passing of Alvaro Montoya, Dale Leftwich, Joel Roach, Alondro Nieto, Jose Mirabel, Anthony Fields, Todd Kim, Solomon Narayo, Amber Alanis, Raul Martinez, David Bem, Armando Valdez III, Jose Rios, Brian Batchelder, Stephen Lee, Daniel Verial, Gilbert Johnson, Jacqueline Isaacs, Roberto Mejia, Michael Coburn, Ralph Ponce Jr., and Jeffrey Story.
Continuing with the list of those who passed while living on the streets of Orange County for November, the last month for which we have information: Cortland Johnson, Sam Jacobson, Ray Hallett, Richard Cabrera, Ronnie Cross, Keith Hawkins, Eddie Jimenez Jr., Sandra Kennedy, Hui Lee, Eduardo Palma, Tracy Randall, Jose Rodriguez, Antonio Roman Estrada, James Rude, Timothy Russell, Keelan Shallett, and Dave Schindler.
Thank you so much, everyone. I want to turn it over to Father Dennis Kritz now. Father Dennis has published on a monthly basis the names of people, unhoused people who have passed away in the Voice of OC. And Father Dennis, if you want to share a few words with us about why you think this is so important and what you hope to achieve by honoring and observing people who are unhoused who have passed on a monthly basis, as we do today.
Yes, thank you. First of all, truly, all of us here who walk on the earth deserve to be remembered, at least in some way. And I don't care what the religious tradition is, all of them understand the dignity of a human being. And as a result, yes, it's important that these people who are among us, who yes, at times can be some of the more annoying people around us, but also honestly some of the most colorful people around us. I mean, so the amount of joy actually that those who are unhoused create in the neighborhoods and so forth, honestly, is also present there. That it is, these are people who deserve, like everyone else, to be remembered. Why I and a deacon here at St. Philip Benizi, we came up with the idea of of holding a interfaith prayer service monthly rather than once a year is so that it continues to be out there. That the list is daunting. There are 386 people who died in this past year on the streets here. And of course, we all know there are actually many more. These are only the ones who fit a particular category for the coroner's office. So we objectively have them, but there are many others who die as well, that are not here. But the point is to keep this in memory. It's also that the Homeless Memorial Day, December 21st, it falls only a few days before Christmas. And what happens, honestly, is that this is great. I mean, we're doing this here. The cathedral actually is doing something as well. In many parts of the country, or even across California also, that these memorials are done. And then 3 days later, Christmas comes and the conversation is over. And yet the demonization or the dehumanization of these people continues year round. When we started to have people coming to us here at St. Philip's, and at that time, literally as refugees from the armory, and that they did not want to go there, when they started coming here and they started camping here on our grounds, as it were, and yes, it was annoying. When we started going to the Fullerton City Council meetings about it, every time there'd be somebody who trot out basically the same family or two who had even years ago a bad experience with the homeless, or somebody would say that somebody out of the 500,000 people who are unhoused in this country, that someone did something stupid in Topeka, Washington, and that would somehow be relevant over here. So we just started to say, let's see how many people there are just on a daily basis who die here in Orange County. And we were stunned. I mean, that even when we started, though, the number of people were in the 200s. Now they're close to 400, really. So it has gotten worse. And so every month there are lists. There's about 30 or so. Really, basically one a day now is dying here in Orange County. And of course, we go to the north to LA County, it's even worse. It's a larger county, right? But it gets worse, and so forth. And this way we remember them, and we at minimum, eliminate this kind of argument of somebody somewhere does something stupid, and therefore, all people, who are unhoused fall into that category. But above all, it really becomes just simply dignity. These people exist. These people walk among us. These people deserve better. And keeping this continued in the forefront is important. Finally, I just want to say to underline what Dave said at the beginning. Housing is a human right according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Which was largely written by Eleanor Roosevelt and her commission. It was approved by the United Nations. The U.S. is a signatory to this document. It doesn't follow it, but it is it is there. Further, in the Catholic Church as well, actually, shelter is a human right. At minimum that, as well as then food and all your access to food, access to education, access to medical care. These are basic things that people deserve to have. Basic things. This is not extraordinary things. This is for being a human being. We deserve these things. And among those people listed, there were several infants, if you listened carefully to this thing. These people, when we're talking about right to life, these people deserve better than this, to die simply out on the streets with nothing. So this is really important. And again, there simply has not been a religious tradition anywhere that says that it's okay to not care. And this is ultimately what this is about. And I really love this organization. Housing is a human right. Yes, at times we annoy people, but good. They deserve to be annoyed. And we do, in fact, the role of the prophets from the very beginning of challenging people, challenging all of us to be better. May God bless us all.
Thank you so much for that really powerful reflection, Father Dennis. And like you said, this is about the dignity of every human being, but for us, it's also a call to action because we know this is avoidable. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Tom Fielder, who is going to articulate a message from HHROC to our local elected officials in terms of what we urge them to do to prevent this avoidable tragedy.
Hi, thanks, Eve. Orange County is in the midst of an affordable housing and homelessness crisis, but it hasn't always been this way. In 1970, the US had nearly 1 million more affordable housing units than poor households, and homelessness was relatively rare. Then in the 1980s, the Reagan administration slashed appropriations for the Department of Housing and Urban Development's subsidized affordable housing programs by more than 80%. In turn, affordable housing disappeared, and by 1990, there were 5 million more poor households than affordable units. One study showed that homelessness rates tripled between 1981 and 1989. Setting the stage for the current crisis. Today, federally funded affordable housing reaches only 1/4 of all people who need it, leaving cities and counties struggling to fill in the gaps. With one of the priciest rental and real estate markets in the world, it is not surprising that housing affordability is the primary driver of homelessness and housing precarity in Orange County. And now with the loss of COVID-19 eviction protections, we can expect that more people than ever will lose their housing. The COVID pandemic should be a wake-up call to every person of authority that the county's failure to invest in sufficient affordable housing represents a major threat to public health. As quoted in a study by UC Irvine, homelessness is caused primarily by lack of sufficient income or job loss combined with high costs of housing in Orange County. The situation is getting worse as rental prices continue to climb. Orange County is now the most expensive rental market in Southern California. It is clear that market rate rent is out of reach for low-income Orange County residents. In 2019, the housing wage an Orange County resident needed to earn to afford a median-priced one-bedroom apartment in the private rental market was over $31 per hour, the equivalent of about $62,000 per year. For a minimum wage earner, this translates to 105 hours of work per week. This so-called housing wage increased by an astonishing 9% in a single year and by 27% since 2015. This increasing housing affordability gap puts a growing strain on low-income renters, leading to housing precarity, displacement, overcrowding, and extreme poverty. Households in Orange County earning half the median income or less spend on average 73% of their income on rent. And households with less than 30% of the median income spend 83% of their income on rent. Furthermore, in Orange County, nearly 350,000 residents struggle to buy sufficient food. To put this in perspective, the number of people who are food insecure in Orange County is approximately equivalent to the population of Anaheim, the county's largest city. Orange County residents struggling with high rent in the private market will find little relief in the subsidized housing market, where affordable housing and permanent supportive housing are largely unavailable. Subsidized affordable rental housing, such as Section 8 vouchers or project-based housing, currently reaches approximately 1/4 of all eligible households. The number of households on Orange County's 4 housing authority waiting lists increased from about 77,000 in 2015 to about 84,000 households at the close of 2017. In the same time, the housing authority provided fewer vouchers than in the previous 4 years, primarily because of inadequate funding from HUD. Wait times range from 4 to 8 years, leading the housing agencies to close their lists to new applicants for several years consecutively. Permanent supportive housing, which is affordable housing with supportive services for people with disabilities who are experiencing chronic homelessness, has failed to keep pace with demand. In fact, according to the most recent HUD housing inventory count report, Orange County's stock of permanent supportive housing beds has actually decreased slightly between 2017 and 2019, even as the chronically homeless population skyrocketed. Moreover, these units are invariably at 100% capacity, and according to the county's homeless management information system, the waiting list is over 1,000 people. Not surprisingly, wait times are usually measured in years. To address this crisis, Orange County will need to develop permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals, initiate a funding mechanism for such housing, and close the affordability gap for non-chronically homeless individuals and for people experiencing housing precarity. Considering the potential mechanisms for funding affordable housing, we conclude that the best way to proceed is for the Orange County Board of Supervisors to put a proposal for a bond measure on the ballot. This can be accomplished quite simply by 4 of the 5 supervisors voting for it. According to HHROC's analysis, we need a bond measure of at least $1 billion simply to address the current need for permanent supportive housing, which is likely to increase in the near future. But we also need funding to keep people from losing their housing. Realistically, a $2 billion bond is probably the minimum necessary to keep the whole problem from getting worse. Given the current makeup of the board, it is unlikely that 4 of them will vote for a bond measure. Therefore, we call on everyone to write, call, email, text their supervisors and put pressure on the board to take this simple step to finally address the increase in homelessness in Orange County and prevent this problem from getting worse. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. That concludes our presentation. Does anybody have any final words that they would like to say before we close out? It feels like it's a time for reflection on this, on this action that we have just engaged in. So I want everybody to take good care of yourselves, and let's translate, as Tom said, let's channel these reflections into political action. Thank you all so much for joining today.